What were we just saying about this NFL offseason?
Yeah.
It does not take a day off. Bobby Wagner to the Seahawks. 5 years, $50 million, worth up to $65 million. Oh, I said that? Damn it, I messed that up. Bobby Wagner to the Rams. Former Seahawk, Bobby Wagner. All right, take two. Hey, Michael, remember what we were saying about this NFL offseason?
Yeah,
that it doesn't take a day off?
What happened?
Former Seahawk, Bobby Wagner, signing with the Los Angeles Rams for 5 years and $50 million, worth up to $65 million per sources. Who cares if the money's real or not? 5 years and $50 million has a nice ring to it. Speaking of rings to it, I said this, I had this in my feed a couple of days ago, but we never got to it.
I remember.
If Bobby Wagner picks the Rams, I'm picking the Rams to repeat. I mean,
and why?
The NFC has already been. There's been a talent drain in the NFC to begin with. Let's just start with that. All right, just in general. Even in that division, I mean, 49ers can't figure out their quarterback. Seahawks are rebuilding. The Cardinals got drama of their own, and we know how they finish every season.
Look at Richard Sherman up here giving context to the report.
Insider Richard Sherman. The Ravens made a last-minute push, but the reigning champs were too good to pass up, which that would have been a huge signing for Baltimore, too, especially seeing as though we got a certain Baltimore Raven we are expecting to talk to later on. Hint, hint. Anyway, I mean, look, man, the Rams, look, they lose Von Miller, which is big, but for the most part, they keep the band back together and add a couple of new members in the form of Allen Robinson on offense and Bobby Wagner on defense. I mean, if you look at their defense,
what an offseason.
The weakest level of their defense was linebacker, and they don't just get an upgrade at linebacker. They get an 8-time Pro Bowler, a 6-time All-Pro, an All-Decade team member, and year in and year out a perennial leading tackler in the NFL to play behind Aaron Donald, who's coming back and getting a new contract. I mean, what else can you say other than the rich get richer? And in the NFC, we just talked about the Bucks. They'll be in the mix. There's nobody really in the NFC East that I trust, so I'm just going to ignore that division altogether. The Packers have lost Devontae Adams. We assume they'll find somebody for Aaron Rodgers to throw to, but nobody in the NFC North other than Green Bay is really a factor. So in the NFC, if it's not the Rams or Brady's Bucks, then who you really looking at saying that's a Super Bowl contender? Right. All the contenders are in the AFC.
You're right. One of the great things, and I love this. I love the art of war. Shout out Sun Tzu. All right, but I love the art of war aspect of the NFL. When a team really starts to establish itself as a champion, the first thing it does is just rearranges its own division. Like, you start to come up a little bit, you're fighting somebody's above you in the division, you take them out, and now when you're sitting on the throne, everybody else is scrambling around you, everybody else is falling apart, and you occupy that land. Like, this is ours, and now we're going to look out. We know we got this, but we're thinking even bigger. We're thinking beyond the division, and that's what's happening, really, to the Rams. Think about it. San Francisco, Jimmy Garoppolo is having surgery, and they're going to wind up either with a broken Jimmy Garoppolo at some point going into training camp, or an unproven Trey Lance as their quarterback. Seattle moved on from Bobby Wagner and Russell Wilson. So you ain't really worried about them. And San Francisco has always been a thorn in the side of the Rams, but they beat them at the most critical time. In the NFC Championship game, in the Cardinals, the Cardinals, they beat them in the playoffs, and the Cardinals have a lot to prove with their team. They're a good regular season team, but they haven't really proven anything. So I'm looking at the Rams. Yes, NFC West, they got it. And then if you look out over everybody else, look out over the landscape, maybe Tampa. You're looking at Tampa. That's about it. And you beat them last year.
I mean, for them to win in Matthew Stafford's first year. Right. For them to win in Matthew Stafford's first year at quarterback, a guy who had not won a playoff game in all those years in Detroit, there's also something about just like breaking through and learning how to win. They overcame the Super Bowl disappointment from a few years ago against the Patriots. They overcame coming up short with Jared Goff. You know, they went all in on this year, and they come out as champions. It just feels like now they're going to be the hunted, but I don't know that they're going to be the hunted from the standpoint of it's going to crush them. You know what I'm saying? You know, sometimes people just, like we talk about it in the NBA, when teams just start to hoard championships. Like I see the Rams and the culture that Les Snead and Sean McVay have cultivated not being the type of organization that falls apart. Even though recent history tells us that teams, first of all, it's practically impossible to repeat. Nobody's done it since the 03-04 Patriots. A lot of people like me thought the Bucs would do it this year. We saw how that worked out. But it's practically impossible to repeat, number one. But not only that, we see a lot of teams go to the Super Bowl and don't even so much as make the playoffs the following year. So I know what recent history says, but I just look at this group, injuries notwithstanding, and I look at what they've done on offense by adding Allen Robinson. At one point, we were talking about whether Sean McVay or, for that matter, Aaron Donald, whether they were going to stay with the organization. They both come back. You know, you add a Bobby Wagner on defense. I mean, it just, you know, last year was the first year with Raheem Morris as defensive coordinator, was it not? You know? So, I mean, I guess their biggest loss would be Kevin O'Connell as offensive coordinator, but, you know, we really know it's Sean McVay's show.
Their biggest loss is
Sean McVay's show.
I think Von Miller is the biggest loss.
Right. Von Miller's the biggest loss. I stand corrected. I guess I just don't see, but I don't see Von Miller stopping this train, is what I'm getting at. Maybe they end up bringing Odell Beckham back on offense, you know? And they still, I mean, for all the talk about, this is my favorite part. We never got to this. I've been wanting to nerd out about this for a while. I've been wanting to nerd out about
the picks.
Rams draft pick about the picks. Compensation.
Yeah.
I want to talk about F them picks. Because for all the talk about F them picks, okay? Draft capital, excuse me. I put in capital. Here we go. Because there's this sports, I think it's called Sports Trans, one of my favorite websites, prosportstransactions.com. I live on that website. All right?
Okay.
So they don't have their first, they don't have their second, they don't have their third.
Oh, that's
They do have a compensatory, well, wait a minute though, but they do have a compensatory pick.
I know.
Thanks for the Lions, you know, hiring Brad Holmes. They have a compensatory third round pick, okay? They have a compensatory fourth round pick as a result of losing Samson Abukum, Gerald Everett, Morgan Fox, Troy Hill, and John Johnson. They have a 5, and then they have 3 fifth-round picks. They built this roster not just from acquiring high-priced players or paying for high-priced players. They nailed the back end of the draft, the middle and the end of the draft. So for all the talks about F them picks, they got hooked up with 4 compensatory picks. And that's just for losing free agents. That's not counting the one for Brad Holmes. So they'll be active in this draft, if not at the top of the draft. That was my point. And I want some teams game the system in that way. They know that they got compensatory picks coming. So that's another reason why you say F them picks.
Yeah, and they're gonna get more. They're gonna get more because they traded. They signed Allen Robinson. Okay, I was gonna say they traded for him. They signed Allen Robinson, but they lost. Yeah. But they lost Von Miller. So they'll get some picks off of that one.
There you go.
Next year.
Yeah.
Next year.
Yeah.
But you know what? This is what I want to know. Is this change? I know what happened this year. I know what happened this year where you have, Les Snead, our guy, known him for a long time. Les Snead doing his thing and just being really aggressive with draft picks, and they won the Super Bowl. But do you think other teams are so intrigued, they're like, wait a minute, hold on. If he did it and it worked for him, what are we doing? What are we doing? Patiently building it through the draft?
I hate being premature identifying trends.
I'm not saying it's a trend, but would it get your attention? Would it get your attention?
Well, yeah. But why can't we do that? I'm with you though. I think two people, and we talked about this last year, and now it's this year, right? It's two. Remember last year after Brady went from New England in his first year in Tampa, we was like, look at how he upsetting all these happy homes around the league. Russell Wilson unhappy in Seattle, Aaron Rodgers unhappy in Green Bay, because they're sitting there watching Tom Brady get the red carpet rolled out and the rose petals thrown at his feet in Tampa and get everything you want, and he goes and wins the Super Bowl, right? Well, this year, and I don't want to say that everybody's trying to copy the Rams per se, but look at how aggressive everybody was this offseason. It goes back to just this intense offseason. So maybe there is, again, I don't want to say that everybody's going to just say to hell with picks or F them picks and just start trading picks left and right. But we saw a lot of aggressive maneuvering in the form of draft pick trades for Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Russell Wilson, Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz. I mean, people are going for it in a way that traditionally we haven't seen. Usually it's like, let's patiently build this thing when there's more than one way you can spend that draft pick capital.
And the funny thing about it is it's a good marketing campaign, but it's not necessarily holistic. It's not thorough. It just sounds good. You can put it on a bumper sticker. You can put it on a T-shirt, or put it on a mug like Les Snead there. F them picks. But it's not. That's not the real story. It is, if you want to take the time to get into the fine print, the small print is, well, we actually value picks, and what we have to do to operate this way, we have to hit our mid to late rounders because that's cheap talent. We got to identify players who can actually play, and then when it gets to a point where it's time to pay them, maybe we move on and repeat the cycle all over again. It's not like they just totally ignore picks.
No,
they ignore.
But then you also
sometimes they ignore premium picks. Like, we're going to use our premium picks to get actual players.
Ignoring them. But they're not ignoring them either, because it's like it's a draft pick is a method of acquiring young, cheap talent, but the emphasis is on talent. So if you're telling me that if I give up a second and a third round pick, I get Von Miller. So no, I don't have him under control for 5 years, but I get Von Miller and I get a Super Bowl out of it.
Yeah.
I make that trade every day and twice on Sundays. If you're telling me that if I got to give up my next two,
if you're the Rams.
If I got to give up my next 2 first-round picks to get a franchise quarterback that's a clear upgrade over the one we had, why wouldn't you do that? It's actually not as counterintuitive as some people make it out to be. It's actually common sense. But here's the other thing you're counting on. You're counting on the kind of culture. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. You got to be at a certain place in your organization.
Because it wouldn't make sense for Jacksonville to take the number 1 overall pick and
it helps when you're drafting low. When you're counting on drafting 32nd. When you're also counting on is people like Bobby Wagner saying, thanks a lot, Baltimore, but the opportunity to go play in L.A. for the defending champs and roam behind Aaron Donald and in front of Jalen Ramsey is just too much to pass up. Last thing that I'll say is, how sick are you if you're a Seahawks fan? Because aren't they facing Russell Wilson this year and now Bobby Wagner twice?
Yeah, twice. Hey, but
could be an emotional roller coaster. Like, man, that's
Seahawks against the world though. They get to position themselves as underdogs. Nobody believes in us. We got a plan here. At least they got a good trade though. For some that was enough. They got a good return on Russell Wilson.
That's as good as they were going to get. That was the only team you wanted to go to.
They'll get compensatory picks for Bobby Wagner. So there it is.
Yeah.
And
that's big.
They'll probably go 7-10, 6-11.
I've been waiting on this signing. I mean, I like him in the NFC. Now, if you could survive, whoever survives the AFC will certainly have all the respect and should probably get, well, they'll get a Lamar Hunt trophy for that. But, should get extra credit if you survive the gauntlet that is the AFC.
Oh, you say whoever. No, hey, why are you playing, though?
They say, look, running back.
Whoever in the AFC.
Whoever survives the AFC.
I know, you said whoever survives, as if you don't know who that is. You know your squad. Hey, stand by your squad. Go ahead. Cincinnati Bengals right there, looking for you to put your arm out.
Oh, okay.
Put your arm out.
You know your squad. We know who your squad is. Buffalo.
Buffalo?
Yeah, Buffalo. I think, you know what? I think that'd be a good brand play for you.
Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.